the number one thing is we have to make sure that we articulate that Jesus should be the center of everything.
Welcome to Leadership 360, a thought-provoking podcast tailored for the Seventh-day Adventist church leader seeking to elevate their skill, enhance their faith, and explore how to be a transformative leader in every facet of their life. We're excited to have another member of the Texas Conference here, a good friend of mine that I've known a long time, John Tatum. John is the men's ministry director at Dallas First here in the Metroplex. And John, I know how passionate you are about men's ministry. We're going to talk about how can we minister to men in our local church. So thank you for coming on and sharing and having this conversation about how we can minister to men in our congregation.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
So let's talk a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about John Tatum. What's your story?
Absolutely. A lot of interesting things. It's things that you may know and things that you may not know. So I grew up on a tiny island in the Caribbean. It's called Utila. It's part of the Bay Islands of Honduras. So super proud to be from those islands. I grew up on an island of 500 people.
Wow.
So super tiny. And made my way to Texas. Wasn't born here. What's the saying? You're not born here, but
you got here as quick as you could. There you go.
But the thing is, I didn't want to come. But I was a 13-year-old, and so we moved here in probably one of the coldest winters in Texas in 1993. So
wow,
I've been here ever since.
Right here in DFW?
In DFW, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, moved into a small apartment with parents. Was a rough start journey. So happy and so glad that we were fortunate to know Jesus and to have Jesus in our lives.
So where did you do your education?
So I went to school here in Dallas as well. That was one of the reasons my family, my parents wanted to bring me off the island because, there's always not the same amount of opportunities. And so I went to high school here. It's called Skyline in Dallas. And went to community college and then eventually made my way to DBU here in Dallas.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
With a background in finance and business, right?
Business and psych, both.
Business and, oh, wow.
You know that about me, right?
That makes a lot of sense now. That a dot I had not seen. And you have a wonderful family, a beautiful wife, a handsome son.
Super. They are my why. They are what keeps me going each day. So Ceci Osorio, she's my wife. We just had 18 years. We got to go celebrate, and it's been like it was yesterday. And we have a 14-year-old going on 24. His name is Christian. Yeah.
As most 14-year-olds are going on 24, whether they're a boy or a girl, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm interested, how did you get into men's ministry? What kind of drove you or what kind of pushed you to be a part of men's ministry?
For me, since I was a young kid, I was always involved in church, either in, Pathfinders and young adults and AY. And so as I grew older, I remember the first time I got the opportunity to be involved with men's ministry, this was years ago, I just felt that I was not the only one. And what I mean by that is we all as men, as young men, and because I was a lot younger then, we all have our struggles. Right. And so being able to see that, first of all, that I was not the only one dealing with whatever I was dealing with, and there was other friends and colleagues and different people who were supportive along the way. And so I'm not saying I'm paying it forward, but there were mentors and there was guys in my life years ago who made an impact on my life. And so I'm a big believer that God instructs us to serve. We should be servant leaders at heart. And that's one of my passions today, is how I can serve others.
So before we get into what you currently do at Dallas First, your day job is in the mortgage business.
That's correct. I'm a senior loan officer for SWBC Mortgage. Here in an office is in Dallas. And so I get the privilege to help families make decisions and build wealth through real estate.
That's why I brought that up, is because having been one of your customers and one of your customers currently, you do have that service heart to serve families and to serve the men specifically in the family, how to best to help them move financially their family forward. And I've always appreciated about you that servant heart comes through in everything that you do, whether it be your business, whether it be working with men's ministry. How long have you been the men's ministry leader at Dallas First?
I have been the leader for the last 4 years, maybe 5, and indirectly and directly, I've been involved probably for the last 10 to 12.
So as you have been involved in men's ministry, and you were talking about your experience even as a young adult and as a kid, why do you think it's so important to minister to men in the local church?
You know, one of the things that I see a lot is men, young men, older men, because a lot of times we think it's the married man, it's the father, the one that has kids and all these, but man, everyone is in the same boat together, regardless of age. But what I continue to see is there's this silent suffering many times. And unfortunately, over the years, I grew up in a very conservative church. I think I somewhat come from a conservative background. And if you're Hispanic, if you're Latino, if you're, and you know, many of you guys are listening to me today, you can probably resonate. There's this stigma around that I need to be okay.
Gotcha.
You know? Yeah. And so one of the things that I've seen over the years is this flourishment that needs to happen, and that is happening in our churches, to saying, we got you. You're my boy. You know, you're my guy. And so one of the things I continue to advocate for is we need to make sure that we are having these conversations about how to reach out and how to serve and the need that's in our churches.
So as you think about it and as you meet men, whether it be at Dallas First or other places, because you're a well-traveled guy, what do you see as some of the main issues that men are facing kind of across the board?
Yeah. You want about issues now or issues in the past?
Let's talk about now.
Yeah.
Because again, every generation's a little bit different. What you and I faced when we were young adults, because we're not young adults.
We're getting old, Tom.
is very different, partly because of technology and partly because of the speed at which the world, spins, it seems like. What do they face today? And it can be across the spectrum from young men to more mature men.
You know, I think one of the biggest issues that we're having, especially in 2025, is a lack of involvement, a lack of camaraderie. And the biggest thing that I see is sometimes we don't have an outlet, right? We don't have that outlet. But if you ask me, and I'm not just saying just men's ministry or just men overall, for right now I'm talking about as a whole, as a family, I feel that I'm trying to figure out where my phone is. You know, I think this is what's ruining us so much, you know? And the reason that I say that is, let me give you an example. A couple evenings ago, my wife and I are getting ready to go to bed, and one of us is doing something on her phones. Well, instead of me waiting patiently till she's done, because it's very important, I whip out my phone. All of a sudden, we are our backs are turned, and we're both on our phones. And then I finally realized, like, oh my God, what am I doing? So for me, I think the whole deal with technology, which having that quick access, not taking the time to really enjoy life and be present, it's really having a huge impact on us as men. But I would say that's leading to things such as addiction. Mm-hmm. And that can be porn addiction. Right. That can be social media addiction. I mean, it'd be very interested to do a survey as men, and maybe that's a check mark to put if men's ministry leaders are listening today. Do a candid conversation about how many hours a day are we on social media. Yeah. But I do think that we are being bombarded by so many things tech-wise that is one of the hindrances we have. And I believe the other thing too is not having those meaningful connections. And if you ask me as a men's ministry leader, as a man, there's been times that I know I got to reach out to someone. I know I should, but I'm afraid, shameful, whatever that might be. And at that moment, that's when that's so crucial that you need that. Right. There is an app, I'm not sure if you heard of it, it's called Covenant. And so you can download that. You can have an accountability partner. And, it could be different things. I had a friend of mine, a buddy, a fellow Adventist that I didn't realize till I got to know them better. They were struggling with something specific that I never even realized. But they were struggling with being a social drinker.
Okay.
And, how do you answer back to that, And so I was like, wow, when did that happen? And there's a lot of weight and a lot of guilt and a lot of stigma that's going on, I think, with men today. And honestly, it is affecting not only them as an individual, it's affecting the family nucleus, and then it's trickling down to our churches too.
And I think you're so spot on when it comes to social media, especially not only the time that we spend on social media, scrolling, but also having that idea of we need to always look like we have our stuff together.
Yeah. Let me give you an example. The other day, my son Christian is trying to get my attention. And he wanted to talk to me about something very important. Okay. And that morning I had done a post. Okay. So I am active on social media for work and for different reasons. This is crazy. I have clients that will not respond to me on a text or a phone call. But if I Instagram them, IM them on Instagram, they'll respond.
Wow.
Think about that. Now, I'm asking you as a man and those who are listening that are on social, could that be you?
Huh.
And so my son is trying to get my attention. I clearly have my phone out. And I'm responding to a post, a text. And he's like, hey, Dad, da-da-da. And I'm literally, this is me literally. And I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, yeah. And like I saw his face just drooped, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, like what did I just do?
Right.
That's my son. So you know how you have that billboard that when you're driving, especially during the holidays, it says hashtag it can wait. So what is it in our life that can wait that we need to change?
So how do we do that? I mean, that's so we are, again, social, we're talking about social media, let alone pornography. It is designed, intentionally designed to suck us in and to keep us engaged. How do we put the phone away? How do we not feel like every post that we post on Facebook or on Instagram
respond.
It's got something immediately? Or, like I said before, one of the things is, why does it always we feel like we always have to have our stuff together? How do we change that? How do we change that?
I think that's really hard. And part of it, I think, is expectations. Going back to social media posts, I remember my birthday was a couple of months ago, and I got a whole bunch of happy birthdays and stuff. And I felt the need. Now I finally figured out that you can thank everyone by doing a certain algorithm and @ followers and whatnot. And so I decided I had to respond to the 380 posts that I had. And so going back to that, Tom, like I think first of all, we have to acknowledge it, right? We have to acknowledge, I'm not telling you your phone is evil. I'm not telling you that social media is evil. But I do think that it has its time and its place. But if we don't make the assumption that it is a challenge and it is hurting, whether it be our relationship with our families, our relationship with Christ, our relationship, personal relationship with others, we need to acknowledge that. And I just believe it's about control. Some folks are super good at time management. That's something that I'm trying to implement, and it's hard. I come up with all these goals at the beginning of the year, and they're all shot by January 31st, right? And so we really, I think we need to be intentional about that. We realize it's an issue, and what are we going to do to change it? And I think a lot of times, as men, perhaps, because if your wife tells you need to do something, let me ask you this: the times your wife has demanded or have told you to do something, many times you may or may not do it, right? And so, but having that buddy, having that accountability person in your life, regardless if it's what I'm watching, what I'm not watching, what I'm doing, I think can go a long way.
So how do we help men who feel like, man, I have no idea how to get control of my life? All of this stuff is spinning, all these plates in the air. what can we as a church, and I'll specifically, direct it to you as a men's ministry leader in a local church, how can you come alongside of those guys? What resources can you provide to help them get more control of their life, be intentional, do whatever it takes that they need to be the man that God has called them to be?
And I'm not being cliche right now. I'm being real, okay? Because this is real talk, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And guys, even though we got cameras all over ourselves, like this is real what me and Tom are talking about today. And I think one of those things is, number one, we need to remember the power of commitment and the power of prayer. So I think if you're a ministry leader and you're listening to us today, my first desire for you and for myself and for Tom is we need to have that meaningful prayer to God to once again help us understand what we're doing or what we're not doing right. I think secondly, after prayer, we got to realize that we are not here to fix everything. You can't start a men's ministry and you're thinking you're going to fix it. You're not here to fix men. You're not here to fix someone else's problems. You know what you're here for? You're here to be a hand. You're here to be a crying shoulder. You're here to show up and make sure that you are saying, bro, I understand what you're going through. I've been there. I understand. I'm here. Because I don't know if this has ever happened to you. Have you ever had a conversation with a friend or a buddy and it's just awkward silence? They know you're there. I know you're there. But perhaps we don't even need to talk. They just need to know you're there. And so first thing I would say, if you're listening and you're contemplating men's ministry and how can I make sure that my church is supportive, maybe you are a person who's listening today and you have a desire to step up because there's no men's ministry leadership in your church. So I think the first thing is you got to come up with a plan. You got to come up with what are those needs in your church. But I think foremost is you got to realize that you're not here to fix things.
Gotcha.
You're here to hopefully provide a safe space, provide an opportunity for engagement, because once again, going back, what I think men are needing today, they're needing commitment from others who are going to stand by them and be there. We don't need judgment. Man, I was talking with someone earlier and I said, I asked this person, I said, what is the number one thing for 2025 that's either affecting you or that's an issue? And you know what they said? John, I'm afraid.
Wow.
I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Like we're supposed to be men, right, Tom?
Yeah.
You the man.
That's right.
Right? Afraid of
fear.
Everything. There's so many things. And I don't think society realizes, or maybe even our own spouses realize this, how much is going on in this world and you're trying to keep it straight and you're trying to do your best, but it feels like the burden of the world is on your shoulders.
Yeah. Well, that idea of fear, part of the reason of fear is I don't have control.
Exactly.
And there is so much, as you've so eloquently pointed out, there is so much in this world we cannot control. Yeah. So many things, the economy, the world, the culture, all of these things that we can't control, and that creates fear.
Yeah.
And I think what I heard you say before is part of being a men's ministry leader or being a man in the church regardless, even if you're not a leader formally, is being there for the guys in your church, being willing to be that arm that you can link up with. Again, not to solve the problems. We are not their counselor. We're not their therapist. We just need to be there.
You need to show up. How many times, I was so sad early today. I got on Facebook and I was responding to an IM. And the first thing that popped up once I went to the main screen was in a local police department, a police officer of like 18, 19 years, veteran officer, took his life yesterday. Wow. Okay, left family behind. Immediately, like a rush of feelings came to my mind. And I immediately texted a individual that I know personally, who is a friend, who is a brother to me, and he's a first responder. and I said, man, I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you. I'm here for you. And then once we got into the conversation, actually then I sent the snap and I said, just by any chance, do you know who this is? And he said, no, but wow, Yeah. And so mental health, we need to have more conversations around that. Guys, and I think one of your previous segments, you had a professional come in and talk about this, and you need to have a way out, if we're going home and you're frustrated, you had a long day, some of you have more stressful jobs than others, you need to figure out an avenue on how to release that before you get home. Because unfortunately, the ones who love us the most and care for us the most are the ones who suffer.
So true.
And then in return from that, we have the guilt on us. Like, man, I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
I shouldn't have talked to my kid. I shouldn't have, whatever. So as men's ministry directors and pastors who are listening, we need to find an avenue. One of the things we do at Dallas First, we have what's called pickup basketball on Tuesday nights. Gym is open. Community can come. Members can come, can go and it's right after work. It starts, I believe, at 6. And so, man, come and blow off some steam before you go home.
Talk a little bit about some of the other things that you guys do at Dallas First.
Yeah.
Dallas First is, large church in a very large city. So it's got a very diverse community. What are some of the things that you do as a men's ministry leader and activities to minister to the men of your church and your community as a whole, as you've just pointed out?
So once again, I'm not perfect. I think I can do more. I want to do more. And maybe that's one of my goals for 2025 as well, being more intentional, being more prevalent. But we've done different things. We've had our own trips. We have had the retreats. We've had breakfasts. We had I think you were present, right? We had a Hawaiian-style breakfast that was amazing.
We did. It was awesome.
The key there, guys, is recruit some awesome ladies at the church to help you cook, because some of y'all probably can't even cook an egg, okay?
Yeah, no.
Or if you got the change and the money, cater it, right? But make it be a nice spread. Yeah. And so that helps. I think sometimes, though, we feel that everything... I think we always feel as men that everything has to revolve around food. That's not the case, guys. You can go do an axe throwing competition, play pickleball, do things like that. But I really think the biggest thing at a church that you can do, maybe it's getting a few guys together and we've gone and had Top Golf, catch a movie, go off and do something different. Get away from the church. Another thing is we don't have to do every activity in the church gym.
Right.
You can get out. One of the things I feel that happens a lot is we try to plan things too much. And as men, and as you know, there's so many things that happen sometimes just impromptu. Yes, if you just send a text message out, we have a group and we call it Men's Talk from DFC. And there's guys who are with us still that have left. One of my awesome brothers from another mother and friends is Martin Martin Wachoga from the Valley. He is always with us, and even though he's 1,000 miles away or whatever it is from here to the Valley, he's connected with us, and we tear it up on there, and we connect and we talk about our wins, we talk about our losses, we encourage each other. So that's something so easy that anyone listening today can start. You can start a WhatsApp group really quick, but I think the biggest thing is plan activities around that is relevant. Perhaps do a survey, but here's the one part that we miss out many times, is we only want to invite certain people.
Right.
Think about that. Why? It's because Tom is super cool, but this other guy, I don't know about him. He a little different. But we all need help, and I think if you get a large spectrum of different ideas, different cultures, different young, think about it. You got some older cats in your church that are super, super cool. I mean, at this last men's retreat we had, I met some guys, I want to say some were from Houston, some were from Temple. They were cutting it up, and I was so enjoying my conversation with them. But you look at them, you'll probably be like, they look a little serious, but you got to get to know us. So
one of the things that I've learned in my time working with men's ministry is the reality is all you need is 2 guys, and you got a men's ministry.
There you go.
So just find some time to invite somebody else, some other guy. Maybe they're new to the church, or maybe they're on the periphery. You know, we as Adventists can get kind of cliquey when it comes to, you know, our social lives. But all it takes is just, hey, let's go catch coffee, go catch a movie, go do something, you know, go see the Rangers, go see whatever it is that person, you know, and be willing to get outside your comfort zone too.
Do it. You know, if you know, once again, we're bad planners sometimes. So sometimes you have to go with the flow, but make it intentional that you're going to, if you're saying today, you know what, I'm going to do this, make it happen. I'm pretty sure if you talk to your local pastor, if you talk to your leadership, let them know about those ideas that are going through your head and just make it happen. I mean, there's so many things and it doesn't cost money. Like I remember once we were trying to plan a trip, and it got so convoluted because we kept wanting to make something happen that it involved this and it involved this. You know, sometimes you just need to get out, go to a state park, have an evening, go and roast marshmallows. I don't know. Go get, you know, if you got a couple of bikes, just get a couple. It doesn't take a lot, you know?
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing. And sometimes those impromptu activities, I believe, is what happens. Then one thing I want to mention is if you are going to start a men's ministry group, like we did, and we have this talk, this DFC men's talk group. I remember once there was a question, it was kind of funny, and they're like, "Oh, should we let the pastor be part of this?" You know, because we get a little rowdy on that group, right? And so, absolutely, you know, and the reason that I'm bringing this up, Tom, is so many times, and I'm gonna maybe I'll step out of your comfort zone for a minute, and maybe you can share as a pastor what your thoughts are. But so many times we think that our pastors are not going through what we're going through. And if you're listening today, man, if you got a loving pastor, if you got someone, show up for them. They need relationships and connections as much as we do. And they need meaningful relationships. Maybe in the past, I don't know, that was a thing, like pastors are like here and members are here. But no, man, you guys are dealing with the same things we're dealing with. So make sure that you are connecting, you're checking in with your pastor, with your other leaders, because we all need accountability. We all need support.
I appreciate that because, again, ministry, when I started, it was still that idea of, oh, the pastor can't have close friends or can't, there has to be that wall.
Boundary, yeah.
And we're just as human as anybody else. We go through the same struggles, the same ups and downs. Sometimes it's more private because we feel we have to put those walls up. Sometimes it's more public because we are, more public figures. But I appreciate that because I wonder how many of our pastors feel isolated as well. That, man, I'm going through this by myself and nobody understands what I'm going through and what it would mean to them for a well-meaning, not trying to score brownie points so that when the pastor comes, when the budget times come, you get extra money, whatever, but out of true care. Yeah. How you doing, brother? Yeah. How you doing?
Just making sure in the same way, going back to that, need, that stigma that's there, like, hey, we're not perfect. We're broken. We're so broken, and we got to realize that we need that. We need that support. And maybe you want to put on your calendar. There's 2 or 3 people that you can think of that you might think you're pouring into them. That but you don't know the blessing that they could be reciprocal in your life, just because you may open up, hopefully, with what you're dealing with. So. Yeah. Huge believer in connections. I mean, I think we were talking about this. The opposite of addiction and the opposite of those struggles is our connections. Right. And so, how do we make that happen? How do you be intentional about? And you're not doing it for a reason, like you said. Right. You might think, oh, John wants to be this dude's friend because he wants to do his mortgage loan. No, to me, it all starts with relationship. And we need that.
Yeah. So paint for me, as we kind of transition to the close, paint for me a picture of a church. And Dallas may be the church I'm about to describe, where you have a vibrant men's ministry. And I want you to paint the picture of what that does for not only the men of the church, but the church across the board, from young, old, men, women, children. What does having a vibrant men's ministry in a local church, what does that do to affect the entire church?
I think it would be greatness to have a vibrant men's ministry. I think one of the mistakes, first of all, that we make, going back to what I just said, is we try to make it perfect. We try to fix everything. So that aside, guys, I think that once you get to a place where you're better than where you were or you didn't have, you're going to start to see some change. Let me give you an example. Once in our church, the pastor said, hey, I need all the men, if you love your wife, stay behind for a meeting, And, men stayed behind and they're trying what's going on? Is somebody dying or something, And it was all about surprising their spouses with a meal, okay? And what I realized is when you're that connected and we're giving, we're providing internally in our churches, we will start to see ministries in other areas flourish, because you know why? Now the men's ministry is on course. They're available. How amazing would it be is once a month, men's ministry decide as a whole that they're going to sponsor or they're going to pour into another ministry at church. Can you imagine if on the fourth Sabbath of the month, men say, hey, the men's ministry says, hey, children's ministry, we've decided that we're going to have an all morning, or we're going to take care of Sabbath school and have a puppet show, or we're going to show the kids, and whatever that looks like. And so what we start to see is engagement, and we start to see families who, I strongly believe if men are connected at church, if men are involved, if they are participating in that smaller group, the wives are probably going to notice that, kind of like, you wash the dishes? What's up? What you want? Or, you're happy. Because once again, we're offloading many times with each other that. Right. But I think there's something so important to know that when you do establish a men's ministry group and when it's flourishing, the number one thing is we have to make sure that we articulate that Jesus should be the center of everything.
I love it.
And confidentiality. You can't, bro, I can't share with Tom what's going on in my life and I find out, Peter down the street already knows about it. And so I do believe that changes will happen in the church as a whole. I heard once someone say that the most important ministry in a church was children's ministry. Well, I beg to differ. I think all ministries are important, but each one may have a different pillar in the church. But historically and statistically, if you notice, we start seeing when men are involved, that affects the nucleus of the home, and you start seeing more participation. You start seeing, let's face it, right? In most of our churches, who are the ones leading out a lot of times, and all of the ministries are women, right? But all of a sudden, that guy's engaged, guy that was not even engaged at all, because why? He made a connection. Now he's plugged in. Yeah. But here's the biggest challenge, guys, and it's happened with us. Is you have a flourishing ministry and then the leader leaves or the pastor leaves and then things just go down. Yeah. So how do you build that back up? And I think that's something that should be instrumental in growing your men's ministry. Is you are also, I don't want to say the word grooming, but you are also building up the future leaders that are coming after you. So if the guys listening, and I'm hoping it's men and women that are listening to this episode, because I think the ladies of the church need to be bought into men's ministry as much as men need to be bought into women's ministry. If they forget everything else we talked about, and we could have gone an hour or so more, because there's so much more would love to pick your brain about. What is one thing you want the listeners to walk away with, bottom line, from our conversation? I would say make the effort today, make the promise, make the commitment that you're going to show up and you're going to be committed to others. I guess I can't say it any better, that what we need is true intentional commitment. And if we can do that, if we can say, hey, I want to make a difference, I want to make a difference in the lives of my church, my men. If women's ministries are listening today, I don't know where this saying or thing, men's ministry and women's ministry cannot collaborate. They got to be separate. Yeah, we probably don't want to go and have tea like y'all do. But maybe we would. Maybe y'all should invite the guys to have some tea. I don't know. But, guys, make the commitment, make the decision to be involved and to reach out. And if you see someone struggling, and if you've ever struggled before, you'll understand. Make it to a point that you're going to make that decision that it's going to be non-judgmental, because the worst thing we can do is help someone get from one space in their lives or help that person build up and whatnot. And intentionally sometimes, because of different reasons, because we're humans, we don't remember how important sincerity is, and also confidentiality.
Wow.
Yeah. And if there's a young person listening today, maybe you're 18, maybe you're 19, 20, maybe you're going off to college, make sure, the people that you decide, because you're gone now, and like you don't have the same friends, your parents are not there. So I think we need to do a better job as a church to make sure that the young men and young women who are leaving our church, that they know that there's people behind rooting for them, who are praying for them, and who are willing to step up. So, it would be a cool project for men's ministry is decide to mentor not only a young person, but if you find that there's kids that are leaving, how awesome would it be to receive a care package? So identify 5 guys in your church that are, maybe it could even be that they're just not coming to church anymore, but how amazing would it be to receive a visit or a gift card or a coffee or a care package? Maybe that's a way to make those connections,
We could keep going because John, the wisdom that you've shared, the experience that you share has been absolutely phenomenal. And I've seen it, having spent some time with the church there at Dallas First, the men's ministry, also having you come alongside of me with the men's retreat this last November. You practice what you preach. And I personally appreciate that, because you pour into me, but I also know that you do that for a lot of other guys. So I appreciate the wisdom that you bring. I appreciate the heart for ministry that you continue to bring. And I can't wait to see what God's going to continue to do through you as you continue to grow. I want to get to some fun questions to get to know the real John Tatum.
All right, go ahead.
Number 1, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning person.
How early in the morning? Like 3 a.m. or?
I'm normally up by about 5.
Okay.
5:30.
In bed by?
10:30.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm definitely a morning person. Just know that morning people, we got to realize that we got to tone it down sometimes.
Not everybody's a morning person.
What about you? You're morning or night person?
I'm more a night person than morning person.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, Cecia, what is she?
I would say she's neither. I think that she's definitely more morning than evening. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say that.
Gotcha. What is your favorite time of the year?
Summer. I hate the cold. This is not my weather, man. I'm an island boy. Give me hot. Give me Houston weather. That's me. Yeah.
So the hotter the better.
I like hot. Not hot, unbearable hot, like Arizona hot.
I don't know. 100 degrees can be a little unbearable here.
But this last week I was miserable, man.
Yeah. Yeah, we're recording in February or in January. We just had this huge cold snap that was unbelievably cold. And so hopefully by the time this gets released, John, it'll be nice and hot just for you, man. Number 3, most memorable trip you've ever taken?
Italy.
Italy.
We just went this last year.
What was it
Beautiful.
about Italy?
Food was good. I'm a history buff, so seeing all, being in the Colosseum, in the middle of the Colosseum, and seeing that was amazing. But Italy was a great trip.
Okay. What is one thing on your bucket list?
Skydiving with my kid.
Skydiving with you. Have you done skydiving
Not yet.
before at all?
No.
So your first skydiving adventure will be with Christian.
It will be with Christian. We already planned it, and we have to wait till he's 18.
Gotcha.
He's ready. He's ready right now.
He's ready. All right. Nice. I can't wait to see the pictures of that. If you could have any animal as a pet, and you've got a dog as a pet, I know, very cute dog. But if you could have any animal as a pet, what would it be?
I would say I would like to have maybe a Bengal tiger.
Bengal tiger? Why?
I don't know. I think they just look majestic and but the thing is like, one that won't eat me,
Yeah. Well, no, that kind of goes with that saying. It's got to be.
You know what? I think I like a Bengal. What's the name of that? Remember that cartoon when we were growing up with the lions, the tigers? I forgot the name of it. Can't remember. But I've always had like the Bengal tiger.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that. Last question. Best piece of advice you've ever received?
I would say, there's several that comes to mind. If you start something, finish it.
Okay. Where did it come from? Where did you hear that? What do you remember who gave you that? Your dad gave you that piece of advice?
Yeah. Start something, finish it. Don't quit.
And knowing you, John, that is something that you continue to live out each and every day. And like I said, I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate just all that you've done for me personally and our family, but also what you've done for men's ministry here in the Texas Conference. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for this conversation.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of Leadership 360. Remember to subscribe. That way you get it the third Thursday of the month. Our episodes drop. If you're following us on video, it's Texas Adventist on YouTube, but also you can follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure that you subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you next month as we have another episode to help you become the leader God has created you to be. Until then, we'll see you next month.